I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Board of Leavenworth County Commission. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to start with a moment of silence. We just received word that there was a shooting at the Easton Bank, so the schools are on lockdown in Easton. So remember that in your moment of silence and prayers. Roll call, all three commissioners are present. Commissioner Cause, Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Culberson. I'd like to start with public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name and address. At this time, I'd like to recognize the Mayor of Basehor and the new city administrator. We'll just go with Leslie. I know I would mess up or pronounce in her last name. I believe it's Riverola.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Doug, for that, because I was about ready to mess it up myself. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sure it'll be a common household name for long.
Well, certainly, I'd just like to thank you for all your services and all the work that you guys do, because I certainly know that sometimes that becomes a little trying. But we're certainly very, very pleased to have today Leslie. She comes with us with great credentials, and I will just turn it over to her, because she knows more about herself than I do.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Commissioners.
Leslie.
It's a pleasure to meet each of you. I started on the job last Monday for the City of Basehor, and look forward to spending a lot more time with each of you and working with you as we build great partnerships. So thank you.
We got a lot to do in Basehor.
We do.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak at this time? And we'll close public comment and move on to administrative business.
I have a couple of items today. First, I just wanted to let the board know that I've asked Stephanie Slope in the Planning and Zoning Department to take on some duties for public relations reasons, just to kind of update our Facebook, do some educational information, get it out there to the people. We have, obviously we have all these social media outlets available to us, but we didn't have any one person who was responsible for keeping them up to date and responding to questions via that way. So I've asked Stephanie to take on that role. She has accepted that. So I just want to let the board know you'll be seeing her putting out more information over the next few weeks and months.
Okay.
And I think Mr. Van Paris had one item as well.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, good morning. David Van Paris. I presented to you a draft letter that had been prepared by me at the direction of a prior board with respect to the issue of interactions between the county and rural water districts in some of your road projects. Specifically, in two of your projects, the county, in working with the rural water district to have their line relocated, discovered that the projects for the water district were not put out for competitive bid. The letter addresses that topic and requests consideration of legislation that would require all rural water districts to use the competitive bidding process above a threshold amount, most likely $25,000. I'd like to think this is not a coercive act. I think it is to correct an oversight by the legislature. There's an Attorney General's opinion that was issued that addresses the issue and calls it an oversight, but the letter requests the legislature take it up. It's not an academic issue. This county has always believed that competitive bidding is a good process and saves the taxpayers money and is the responsible way to do it. We're simply asking that our partners in future projects do the same, and I'd answer any questions you have regarding it. I would say this matter would probably have some state concern, so I'm not saying that it's likely to pass immediately, but it puts the issue before the legislature for consideration.
We did a similar letter last year, didn't we?
Yes.
Okay, and it didn't go nowhere.
No.
I think it probably came out late enough.
I think,
that
yeah, we were kind of late in the session, I believe.
we're a little earlier
I was
this.
hoping it could get attached to some other bill.
And Commissioners, I believe one of our representatives has expressed an interest in possibly at least introducing a bill on the topic.
So are you going to need a motion for supporting this letter?
Yes, because the letter does bear your signatures.
You had a chance to look over the letter?
Yeah, so just to be clear, to make sure what you're saying is, we always go out for bid when we're going to get a project done. So we get several bids and usually take the lowest or best bid. And what you're saying is the statute doesn't require water districts to do that.
No, Commissioner. In fact, it's an odd oversight. Virtually every other public entity with respect to construction projects is required to use competitive bidding. For whatever reason, that component of legislation was never introduced into the act covering rural water districts.
And I talked to Kansas Rural Water Association and a couple other water districts, and they were surprised to find out that the statute didn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of people in the water industry just don't even know that it doesn't say it already.
You want to make a motion?
I make a motion when we approve sending this letter. You need the exact.
To our representatives?
Yep, to the representatives at the state.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the letter to our representatives about bidding water districts going out for bid for work? I'm pretty sure it's broke down in as like when there's tax dollars used, like for our road projects. No further discussion? Voting? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, a letter will be prepared on your letterhead for your signatures, along with the attachments to go to each of the legislators.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Any further administrative business?
Nothing further from administrative
Okay.
business.
I guess at the end, we can talk more on water districts.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, I apologize, but as long as we're on administrative business, and speaking of rural water districts, as part of the Eisenhower project, the county will be requiring that a local rural water district relocate its line. In consultation with the water district, they've expressed concern over their ability to meet the county's time schedule with respect to the construction of that road. In discussing this matter with Mr. Lawfrey, we'd like to present to the board the proposal that the county offer to the rural water district, that the county would contract for the relocation of their water line, oversee the timeliness of that in coordination with our construction project, and upon the conclusion, turn the line back over to the rural water district. Wherever these water lines are in private easements, it is our financial responsibility to relocate the line. It's our belief that having the county oversee this would relieve the burden off the rural water district, give the county control over the timeliness of the relocation, and allow for basically a coordinated relocation.
And we had gotten into a change order on 147th Street because the water line was not out of the way. It was 200 and...
Almost $250,000.
Yeah, almost. Actually, it was a little, it was 263, I believe.
And then
And some
we'll
change.
likely have one on McIntyre as well because of the same problem. The water line was not out.
Right. So by doing this, if we put the water line project in with the road project and bid it as a package deal, we shouldn't have any change orders, correct?
That's the hope.
Based on water lines.
And the cost is going to be, I mean, the cost would be the county's anyways. I mean, it would have, whatever the cost the water district would have had to pick that cost up as part of the project.
Okay. And you just,
We'll bring an agreement to you hopefully next week, but we need to work with the water district too on something. But we'll have an agreement letter for the board to consider and approve.
Okay. All right. So now that concludes administrative business. Has commissioners had a chance to look over the consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Any questions, concerns, or
Nope.
No.
entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? None. We'll call for voting.
Aye.
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 All right. Okay. Planning and zoning.
Here we go.
Morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Morning.
This morning we are going to bring forward the County Road 1. As I think everybody knows, we started County Road 1, the land use study, about this time last year. Pardon me, just to begin, just so everybody is on the same page, we are not making a formal approval or denial or anything like that today. We're going to make a recommendation. This is per Kansas State Statute 12743. We are required to send this to the city of Tonganoxie because they're the nearest city limits with our recommendation for the concept that we choose. They will then have a public hearing. It's my understanding as of right now that public hearing is scheduled for March 18th. That could change, but right now they're planning on taking our recommendation forward on March 18th to their city council. They will then send it back to us, and we must notify them 20 days prior to us making a formal adoption. So if they send it back to us on the 19th, we would have to wait a minimum of 20 days and give them notification before we can make a formal adoption. So that puts us up.
Just one thing to clarify on that though, Crystal. Really, the notification we're giving them now starts that 20
Will
days.
that will count? Okay.
So the board can give them notification. They'll have the 20 days. It'll actually be longer than 20. We won't bring it back for at least until after they have a chance to present it. So if it's the 18th, we wouldn't bring it back until after the 18th. But it would give them at least the 20 days required by the statute. We just, before we adopt it, we have to notify them which plan it is that we're interested in, if any, and then give them the sufficient time to review it.
Well, would this final adoption would take place before the new commissioners would get here? It could.
Yes.
It
Yeah,
could.
good.
Yeah.
But I think given the new makeup of the commission, I think we should wait till the new commission would get here before we do a final adoption, especially when one of the new commissioners is going to be in that area, Tonganoxie area.
Good idea.
Is there just one here? Well, Troy, you guys have an opinion? Could you come forward and see if you have an opinion on this? Are you familiar with the County Road 1?
Yeah, I'm familiar. I think as you were saying, Commissioner, it would allow the new commissioners the opportunity to serve their district, and they're the ones on the ground. All of us have been on the ground in our different respective districts, trying to gather information on County Road 1. I've heard it personally from one of the candidates. So I think that would be beneficial for the county and the commission.
All right, thank you. Mr. Roque, you have an opinion on this?
Always.
Curtis Rowe, 211 East 2nd Street. With this coming up, I'm kind of going to keep hesitant about that because it's got to be presented to the city council since I'm on city council. But I would recommend to bring it in front of everyone and let the other commissioners be a part of this. Since there's going to be 4 running for that office, I would recommend to give the option for everybody to study the procedure and move forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, thank you. Is there anyone else here running for office in either 4th or 5th district?
I don't see it.
Don't see anyone. All right. But we could move forward for the city to hold their public hearing on it, but just hold off on the final vote till we get 5 commissioners up here.
That'd be fine. That would put it into April, middle to later April.
Okay.
But if the board today could give direction on which plan to present to Tonganoxie, that gives them the chance to start that process.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll just go ahead and go through the background so that everybody is on the same page. The Board of County Commissioners, they partnered with us and with the they partnered with Kansas Turnpike Authority to invest substantial funds in the construction of County Road 1. At the time, it was decided that substantial investment of public funds into infrastructure improvements should reasonably be accompanied by a detailed land use study, which is what we have before you today, in order to ensure the public health, safety, and welfare, and to provide a reasonable increase in the tax base of the county proportionate to the investment of taxpayers' funds. Early last year, we partnered with Vireo, the land use firm, to conduct the land use study. At that time, we reached out to stakeholders, one of which was the city of Tonganoxie. They were part of our stakeholder group, and they were invited to all of the meetings, and we began a kickoff meeting. The kickoff meeting was held on May 2nd, 2018. At that meeting, we brought out all of the existing conditions of the corridor, which are minimal, as you are aware. And we asked the residents, the stakeholders, everybody who was there, we had about 100 people at that meeting, to tell us what they wanted to see along the County Road 1. That information varied from leave it alone to we want industrial, we want heavy industrial and everything in between. We then took all of that information and we came back and we filtered through all of the information, and we began to develop a land use map along with policies and guidelines for the corridor. We then took that preliminary draft and we took it to the first stakeholder meeting, which was a smaller group of people, and again, the city of Tonganoxie was invited to that along with landowners, business owners, a number of people. We had about between 20 and 30 stakeholders at these meetings. And we showed them what we had come up with. It was based upon the public input, and then they began to refine that even more. And they said, well, maybe in this area we would like to see this, and in that area we would like to see these policies. So then we took that information and we gathered again, and we refined it some more. We then took that final revision, and that's where we came up with Concept A and Concept B. I believe that the commissioners have copies of Concept A and Concept B, but just so everybody is on the same page. Concept A is the most dramatic change to the corridor. You can see that we're proposing commercial, industrial, a variety of residential uses throughout the corridor. This is a very optimistic, and the outlook on this would be 40 to 60 years before we could fully develop this. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. Again, this is a future land use plan. Option B, the corridor essentially remains the same, aside from a couple of nodes of commercial development and some industrial development there along I-70. Everything else would remain rural residential. This could be potentially accomplished in 10 to 15 years. However, it doesn't change the corridor very much. Staff's opinion is that Concept B does not meet the goal of making sure that we are increasing taxes proportionate to the investment of county residents' county taxpayer funds. So we recommend Concept A. We took this to, pardon me? Based on the highest and the best use, we recommend Concept A. We took this proposal to the Planning Commission where we had a public hearing and we presented to them. The Planning Commission also voted 6-1 to adopt Concept A of the County Road 1 land use analysis and future land use map. That is their recommendation. I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Want me to start?
Yes, sir.
Crystal, could you kind of explain what skin we've already got in the game, when we're talking about which plan we pick, how to recoup the money we've already invested in this area? Can you kind of just go over what are we trying to recoup as far as money we've already spent?
The amount of money that was...
just roughly.
You have the exact figure. I think it's roughly $30 million. Is that... correct, between?
Close to like $20 million we spent on the corridor.
Does that include the
including-
turnpike?
Yeah, including the,
You counting the County Road 1 project and the industrial park?
no, not the industrial park, that's separate. But just the corridor and the turnpike, it's close to like 22 million.
If you had the industrial park, it'd be $27 million interest.
And so what we're trying to do is pick a plan that would best recoup as much of that as we can.
Correct.
First
On
of all,
top of going forward.
understand that this just allows for development. It doesn't create development.
Right.
So it just allows for development. It doesn't change the use of the land that's there right now. The people who are there, their land use stays the same. If they want to change use in the future, then they would follow the rules of the corridor, which is what was intended, when they built the corridor. Some pretty optimistic people put together a plan on that, thought that within 10 to 15 years, the county would recoup the investment. So far, we haven't seen any development along there. So this is the opportunity. And they also called out that we would do this land use study within the first year and a half to 2 years after it opened. And obviously, we're several years past that. So just wanted to get something out there because we have currently a moratorium in that area.
Right.
So we need to either lift the moratorium or adopt a new plan that replaces the moratorium.
And if we lift the moratorium and we pick Plan B, and it's mostly residential, that's going to be hard to make back that much money.
Correct.
So Plan A is more friendly toward that effect.
Yes.
Also, if you go to Plan B, you're going to need a special use permit or a zoning change down the road every time somebody wants to put in industrial or commercial because it's zoned residential in Plan B.
Correct.
Is that right?
Well, Plan B, it's mostly agriculture and residential. So if, say, some commercial development wants to come in, they would have to go through the rezoning process, and it's harder at that point because it's agriculture and residential at that point. So with this plan, the Plan A, it shows commercial and industrial and, medium density and high density residential. So if they come in with a commercial development within the area that's shown as commercial, it's easier for them to get the approval because the plan says so.
And then the last thing I had was, so you've had the stakeholders and focus group look at this and all the people involved on the acknowledgements page, and they recommend Plan A. Is that correct?
Well, some of them, it varies. It varies from leave us
majority,
alone
I guess the
and
majority is what I
to
should
industrial. So there's a,
I don't think any plan will be unanimously supported.
No, I didn't mean unanimous, but the feel for you're getting into the
But
majority.
this is what the Planning Commission is recommending,
is Plan A.
Plan A.
That's all I got.
You have anything, Commissioner Collins?
No, I attended some of the,
Mhm.
the initial, that's where I first met you, so.
Right.
So I know the process and what has happened along the way, and I think I'm pretty familiar with both maps at this point.
Mm-hmm. If you don't, I've got several
No, thanks.
tabs here, but so you're wanting this board to pick a plan and present it to the city of Tonganoxie today.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Ready to make a motion?
I'm ready to entertain a motion.
That we direct planning and zoning to recommend Plan A for the city of Tongi to go forward with.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion on this? Other than this is not a final, it will go to the city of Tonganoxie and it'll get kicked back to this board, and there'll be
We won't
two
bring it-
additional members of this board by the time this is final.
We won't bring it back on an agenda for formal approval until after the new board members are replaced.
Okay. And perhaps we should have a work session with the new board members on this. commissioners be okay with that?
Yeah, do you want to include the City of Tonga Council in the work session?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that would be, when this is passed, the moratorium would be lifted, correct?
Yes.
Okay, it would automatically be.
Actually, April 30th is the next deadline for the moratorium, so at that time, the board can decide.
And the
if-
moratorium's been in place since '06, '07?
So 06.
Does it automatically expire on April?
Yes, every year it expires.
Okay.
Unless the board.
Kind of a long time for a moratorium.
What I might recommend, since Tonganoxie will be having this on one of their agendas, that any of the commissioners that are interested in meeting with them, from a scheduling standpoint, it's kind of hard to get all the schedules. So if you already know they're having that meeting and addressing this, it might be easier if those commissioners who are available just attend that meeting and listen to the discussion and participate. It's a public meeting. We'll put it on our agenda to make sure that then it's official public notice. Just a suggestion, if that's.
I'll be
That's a
there.
good idea.
I'll be there anyway.
And I just had a question, Jeff. Do you know why we didn't have a plan like this already when the KTA created the interchange on I-70? I mean, it seems to me like this plan should have been in place when the interchange got built.
Correct, I agree with you, but I don't know the reason. I wasn't
Okay.
I wasn't
I know
here at
there
that
was
time.
something strange.
Okay,
So I think it's just past due.
Yes, they should have done this first and then.
right. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Voting?
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right. All right, now we're ready for the county master plan contract.
Morning, Commissioners. August of last year, the Board of County Commission directed us to send a request for proposal to some of the firms in the Kansas City area and also to publish it on the website. We prepared the request for proposals and we sent it to 11 firms within the Kansas City metro area, and we received proposals from five of the firms. And then we formed a committee to review all the proposals, and we interviewed 2 of the firms. And out of those 2 firms, Olson was selected as the final, hopefully the consultant for doing the plan. So the plan consists of a comprehensive plan for the whole county, which includes a land use plan, and a transportation master plan, a water master plan, a wastewater master plan, and also a utility plan. So in the report that's presented to you, there's a table that shows all the breakdowns of different fees for all those plans. So the master plan, it's close to $288,000, and then based on the conversation with the board, staff is recommending the land use plan or the comprehensive plan and the wastewater plan. So those are the 2 items that came out as the priority for the county.
I think what I'd add to that is that if you, when we started the discussion for the comp plan or master plan, the board at the time felt that it was important to include wastewater. So what we asked for the vendors is that they provide us the ability to phase it, so that each phase could be handled separately, so that we could do more of an a la carte approach. At the time, the board wanted to include wastewater as part of that, so that's why you have that in there, and that's why staff brought it back forward. If the current commission would like some other variation of that, the vendor is acceptable to that. So we can do one, we can do multiples, or we can do none of it, obviously. So whatever the board's decision is.
Well, I like the idea of phasing it in because for budget-wise, and that.
We have identified funding for this. There is some money left over in the previous county sales tax that was for economic development and stuff. So we do have funding for this. We did have funding for both the master plan and wastewater plan if that was what the board wanted to go forward with. But as far as staff preference. Obviously, the comp plan is the important one to us.
And I'm sure they'll be working with the cities on this.
Correct.
All the cities' comprehensive plans. And
Yes, they will meet with each community, shareholders meetings. They'll work with what those master plans are. What I would hope is that if any of the cities need updated master plans, they can take that opportunity to maybe commingle that work with them. So.
Yeah. Commissioners have any questions on this? Been talking about it for a couple of years. We're finally getting it to come to.
Yeah, I think the plan we have now is like on its 17th year or something like that, and so we're overdue. I just, like I say, I do not like spending money on comp plans, especially when they're done by a firm that's not local, that doesn't know your community very well. But I know in the process they make focus groups and they involve local people to come up with the plan. That being said, $288,000 is pretty cheap for a 450 square mile comp plan. So, and it's good that it is phased, because if it wasn't phased, I would not be voting for it. So I'm in agreement for the initial master comp plan, but we got a long way to go before I want to approve the rest of these plans.
Commissioner Collins? Have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I do have one question. Is this the same group that helped work on the last updated plan?
Yes, same group.
So
yeah.
They do have familiarity or existing with the community and the environment as well?
Yeah, the same person who worked on that is here today.
Okay. Hi.
Oh. And
No,
they
I
do
just said,
have,
I think that kind of brings some continuity to the whole process as well, that this individual has already met with, spent time with, and in the county. So it's not totally starting from scratch.
Well, to Commissioner Culverson's concerns, I agree. If we get a solid plan, it needs to be revisited every year. Pick a date, and that's the year we update our plan, and just not leave it on the shelf.
well, that's the challenge with any comp plan or any plan that you do, and that is
Boards change.
you have to follow the plan. Otherwise, there's no point in having the plan. We will, obviously, anything that comes out of this study, we'll bring back to the board for consideration. Hopefully, it is acceptable and it gets implemented, and then its staff will make sure that we follow it. But as you have seen, occasionally people come up and ask for exceptions to the plan. And you have to evaluate, because things change. I mean, this is a plan that's going to be good for the day that we do it, and we'll use it moving forward for growth. But something could happen in the county that would change a usage, and that's when you have to apply consideration. But you can't amend it every time somebody comes up and just doesn't like the way what it was. That creates a problem. So if the board follows through with this, which we are recommending, I would also just put the caveat out there that it's only good if we follow through with it.
Okay. So you need a motion to approve this?
Yes.
To go out for contract?
I believe you have received a copy of the contract as well. So we just need
To approve the contract for the county master plan proposal?
And my only other question was, this is approved by the staff. Staff recommends.
Yes. Yeah, county councilors looked at it.
Planning
reviewed
commission, planning and zoning.
Did planning commission look at this also?
No, not the contract.
No, but I mean the master plan. Did they recommend to phase it in?
They haven't seen the contract yet.
Okay.
Tonight we have a planning commission meeting, so I was going to present that before them. So I wanted to come before you all first.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the contract for the county master plan.
Second.
So this will be phase 100. That's the only one.
Master plan.
Just phase 100.
Phase
right?
100. Was
Yeah.
it 101?
100.
That's just the master plan
Just
only.
the master plan.
Okay.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Herring, come forward, please.
Morning, Commission. Joe Herring, surveying 315 North Fifth. It's a lot of money we're looking at putting out here. By improving this in phases, are we tying ourselves to Olson the rest of the way through?
I
mean, it was
believe so.
1.8 million dollars for the complete plan. I didn't add it up, but I'm just estimating.
1.9.
My impression is,
1.9.
Phase 100 could be a standalone plan by itself.
If we go to a sewer plan, then we can rebid this and get somebody that's not $480,000.
Yeah, we don't have to do any of the rest of these. Just the master plan is on its own.
We're only discussing and approving the master plan. I will tell you that we asked for all of the entities that provided it to provide it in this format. The two that we've interviewed provided, and from a price standpoint, Olson was the more affordable.
Okay, that was my next question was, what everybody else bid?
Yeah, so Olson, from a price standpoint, Olson was the most.
Yeah, we went out for bid.
And the other group did have issues with providing it in phases. They wanted kind of the full enchilada. So
yeah,
this was the most responsive and best presentation, and the committee that we used was unanimous in support of this proposal.
Okay, so we're not tying ourselves to them. Normally, when I'm used to seeing things about the bid, you have the other firms and you have their prices listed. We didn't see that in this format, like contracts for construction. You'll see the competitive prices. So I was just wondering if everybody gave the prices and everybody was willing to break it down in parts so we could compare that just for the comp plan alone, that other firms weren't more competitive in pricing. So I think you answered that question. Appreciate that.
And they might be if we go to the next phases.
Right.
Somebody else might be.
That's true. Mark touched on something, lesser use. So let's say with comp plan, County Route 1, it's mostly industrial and commercial. Much like this plan, if somebody comes in with a lesser use or continues to use their property in that manner, they're not affected.
That's correct.
It's easier to come in with a lesser use and try to change it. So that's a misconception, I think, that's been out there a little bit. My last part is we have cities wanting to expand their boundaries, their growth districts, and take over control of some areas. We talked about working with the cities. I think, Chairman, you brought that up, work with the cities.
Mm-hmm.
But that is going to be the most intense area of this plan in my mind, because that's where all the growth is designed to go, is towards the cities. So if they're going to change their growth district or their boundaries, are we spending our money as a county to plan their city growth? Or should they expand their boundaries first and then let us do our comp plan?
I think you're touching exactly on why I wouldn't be for the wastewater plan and a couple of these phases, because I see those as city issues, not county issues.
Correct. Okay. I see that. But much like, and I touched with the mayor back there a little bit, Baser's looking to expand. If we go into with a comp plan and we spend a lot of time on the city of Baser, and it's not what Baser wants, and they change their growth district and annex the properties, do we waste our money and waste our time?
Well, that's why they're going to be working with the cities on this.
Yeah,
It's concern not knowing where their growth districts are going to be or where their boundaries are going to be.
that's part of the study.
They are part of the
Yeah, they'll be
discussion.
part of the study. We'll show the new urban growth boundaries.
Yeah.
They'll come out of the study.
And I think we're saying the same thing, I think, Joe, because like I said, the rest of these plans would get into, we don't need to be in the wastewater business if the city's going to expand their city limits. Wait for them to expand, and then they just determine.
Stormwater and everything.
Yeah, so.
I think it's just not clear to the sitting in the public that that's what was discussed up here.
So the master plan, the comp plan, wouldn't really interfere with the city expanding their city limits, because it doesn't talk about sewers or stormwater or. Before we get into that, we need to have conversations with the cities on how far out are you going to go and when.
Very good. All right, thank you for the clarification.
And that'll be a conversation we'll be having in the near future with some of the cities.
All right, thank you.
Good
All right.
question.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, We had a motion and a second on the floor. Voting?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anything else for the board other than the executive session? All right, then we'll take the time to, let's see, give us an update on your past week.
Oh, okay.
Make it to the little stranger thing.
Made it to the Little Stranger thing.
I didn't.
It's kind of an in and out. It was very good. I've never been before, so I'm assuming it's always good.
It is always good.
And, let's see, didn't make it to the government affairs or the military affairs thing at St. Mary because it was canceled from the ice storm. And just met with and received phone calls from several individuals in the county.
My busiest part of this last week is fielding phone calls about roads, dirt roads.
They're gravel.
Yeah, just like they're mud right now, and that's kind of what I wanted to bring this up is, it's bad weather for gravel roads right now. So your gravel road, if you live on a gravel road, is gonna be muddy. It's froze underneath about 2 inches, so it keeps it really super soupy, sloppy, slick right on top. And it's gonna be that way until Mother Nature decides to let it permeate on down through the ground. So I know the roads are in bad shape right now, but just I wanted to point out they're all in bad shape right now. Anywhere you go.
Yep, they all are.
Even concrete parking lots are falling apart.
That's right. Even interstates are falling apart. My neighbor hit a pothole in the middle of the interstate yesterday and blew a tire.
So I know
we are aware of it. I appreciate you bringing that up. Actually, in the last 5 years, we've issued approximately 500 building permits for people outside the city limits out in the county. Most of those are probably on rock and gravel road. So we've not had since that time a winter like this one.
No.
So this is the first time for a lot of these people experiencing where we've actually had a real hard winter. So that's why I think a lot of the calls are coming in. There's just not a lot we can do right now because of the way the weather is falling out. The crews are doing what they can, and when spring comes in, they're going to fully hit all these areas. We're going to be addressing them. If there's a safety concern, we'll address that obviously right away.
Everybody needs to be aware that today it's going to be nice and warm and tomorrow, so more of that high level frost and stuff is going to melt. It's not going to be able to permeate, and so it's going to get even worse before it gets better because it's going to refreeze come the weekend when we get the next snowstorm. So more roads are going to start breaking up. So just be prepared. Slow down. You know?
Yeah, and just be patient. In 2 weeks, your mud road is not going to be nearly as sloppy.
Right.
Glenn?
And you have most of the blacktop in your area. Third district, yeah, you do. Third district has most of the gravel roads.
I just had a concern. Question's been raised out in the county about Millwood Road. The bridge had holes in it, and the county put plates over that, which we thought was a temporary fix. And then right behind that, they closed it down completely. Was that something state mandated, or the county engineers just say, it's too bad, we can't do this?
It's a safety-related issue. After we had the inspector go out, we closed the road so that the inspection company would have a chance to give a full report on it. One of the concerns was that traffic on that area of the bridge would create additional damage so that we wouldn't have the opportunity. It would have made it worse to the point where we couldn't have fixed it once the time comes. But because it's a bridge, we have to have a full inspection done on it. And then that should be back anytime, in fact, maybe tomorrow.
That's what I was just going to ask. So we got a
And then we
time
can make a
on it.
determination and bring that to the board on whether it's just a patch. If it's a patch, obviously the crews will get on that and get that done. If it's a new deck, then that comes back to the board because of the cost.
Yeah, and history on that bridge is it develops a hole about every 4 or 5 years, and usually it's just a hole we can patch. And we thought that's what this was, but I think after the initial inspector went out, they said we probably need to close it until we can do a better inspection. But it's probably just going to be short term, but we should know today or tomorrow.
We should have a report back today or tomorrow. They said by Friday was the latest, so I'm hoping they'll get it to us a little sooner than
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that bridge, and usually it just gets patched, so I don't think it's structural, but we gotta wait till we get the official word. Got another hand?
Could you come forward?
Lindsay Blankhardy, 22800 Wood End Road. On the road problem issue of it, I happened to listen to the update from the departments, and they were talking about grading and how often they do that, and they try and get to it on a monthly basis. Personally, on our road, they grade it twice a day, every day, including Sundays. So I was wondering, and it doesn't matter, it's still cruddy. It doesn't get any better. It seems to get worse as they grade it. So the statement about the roads getting, everybody's soupy, I do realize that because I drive a lot of gravel roads. I realize everybody is soupy, but that being said, I don't know that everybody may be getting the fair shake on the grading part of it when we're getting it so often in that area.
What was your?
And I've actually stopped and asked, and it is the county and doing it. So, because I thought maybe it was KTA because we're so close to Turnpike, but it's not.
What's your address on Wood End?
22800 Wood End Road.
And right there, that segment is what you're talking about? Okay.
Yep. And I just want to know when it's going to get any better because it's been that way for like 3 years now.
Off the top of my head, I think that's a high traffic road. I'll check.
It is. I mean, it's not actually, it doesn't pose that because it got bumped down to, I think, Group 4 when we're talking about the chip and seal.
So it's in one of the phases.
It's in there.
And I don't think I think that's a misconception. It's not a bump down. It was, the reports came back.
Traffic count.
On the,
right.
At different times, so it didn't get bumped down. It is just, it was later, the reports still haven't come in, and when they come in, then we can sit down and look and the.
All 4 groups will be approved this year, and hopefully.
Oh, all 4 of them are going to be improved this year?
All 5 will be approved this year.
5 or 6 groups.
And potentially bid, depending upon the board's direction.
But there's no way they're all going to get done this year.
That's a lot of miles.
That's a lot of miles.
And if they were to get done this year, I'd be concerned about the quality of them and fall apart.
Right.
So, that's just simply it, is I want to know when it's going to get better. Watching the grader go by is quite irritating because it just doesn't get any better, it gets worse.
I just wanted to make sure you knew, you weren't bumped off, bumped down, or anything else. It's still going forward. The reports just haven't come in.
And I know city streets are, I know in general, I know the whole concept of the thaw and all that, but again, that being said about grading, kind of irked me that we get it so much, it doesn't improve anything, and then you've got those that are complaining that they're not getting it, so.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I went to lunch yesterday at the Little Stranger dinner. Made it to the Lincoln Day dinner Saturday night. Baser's city council meeting is tonight, I believe. Is that correct? They've changed from the first and third to the second and fourth Wednesday. Okay. And let's see, the LCDC, I'll attend that tomorrow, and then you're going to take care of the mental health meeting task force tomorrow. You got anything coming up?
Tomorrow night, Lansing City Council.
Okay, I won't be able to attend that.
Are you going to that Lansing City Council? Are you going to Lansing?
Yes, tomorrow night.
And
I did go last week.
And
is it fire district?
Fire district's 21st, I believe.
Is that the next week?
7 o'clock.
You'll be there?
Yes.
Okay. Are you going to be there?
Yeah, I can go, right, since it's on the agenda.
Yes, right. So that fire district's in your areas, so I won't go. As long as you guys are good, as long as you guys will be there, I won't go.
I'll bring my whistle.
Okay. Well, I'm sure this is going to be something we're dealing with, but anyways, anything else? And I guess I'll entertain the motion for the executive session.
I move that the board recess for a closed executive meeting for the discussion of a possible claims against the county as justified by KSA 75-4319B. 2, for consulting with legal counsel for the board, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client privilege relationship. and that board resume open meeting at, you said 10, 15 minutes?
10:05 would be
10:05.
At
sufficient.
10:05 a.m. in the morning, room of the board. Present in the executive meeting will be Commissioner Smith, Cos, and Culbertson, Senior County Counselor David Van Paris, and the County Administrator, Mark Lawford.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I would like to clarify that unfortunately your printed agenda mischaracterized or this topic for a different matter. Apologies, that matter will be brought up at a later date, but the topic as recited in Commissioner Cos's motion is the one that will be addressed this morning.
Okay.
Need a second?
Yes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on going in executive session? Seeing none, voting?
Aye.
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 We return to regular session. From executive session, we're back in regular session. No decisions were made in executive session. Discussion was limited to potential litigation. Any further discussions or anything we need to before the board?
Not this time.
And we'll adjourn the meeting.
Thanks for coming.